Go ahead and start talking. Yep. Good morning and welcome to the April 15th PSTA Finance Committee meeting. We are holding this meeting as a virtual meeting in light of the current medical emergency. I wish to read the following statement to let the public know that we are in compliance with the governor's executive orders, the Sunshine Law, and PSTA's own rules and regulations, and so the public knows how they may participate in this meeting. Pursuant to the governor's executive order number 20-69, suspending all Florida statutes, including PSTA's special act that requires a quorum to be present in person at local government public buildings, or that requires a local government body to meet at a specific public place, PSTA may conduct meetings of its board of directors and committees without having a quorum of its members present physically or at any specific location, and utilizing communications media technology such as telephonic or video conferencing as provided by Section 120.54 (5) of the Florida statutes. As the PSTA offices are closed, none of us, nor any member of the public, will be allowed into PSTA's administrative offices, including the auditorium and boardroom where meetings are normally conducted. Notice that this meeting will be held by communication media technology and not at a physical location was posted on PSTA's website at least 7 days ago. The notice also provided that those members of the public needing reasonable accommodation to participate in the meeting to contact the clerk for assistance at least 2 days prior to this meeting. PSTA has developed several methods of ensuring the ability of the public to comment prior to and during the virtual meeting. It has established these options. 1. During the meeting, the public can provide public comments via telephone by calling 727-540-1990 and follow the prompts. The meeting ID is 6177. The password is 87653. Individuals will be able to speak for 3 minutes during the public comment period. Again, to make a public comment today during the meeting, members of the public should call 727-540-1990. Meeting ID number is 6177. Password is 86753. This line is being monitored by PSTA staff, Clarissa, who will inform me, and I will call on you to speak at the appropriate time. Option 2. The second option allowed for the public to submit written comments prior to the meeting was by mail to PSTA 3201 Scherer Drive, St. Petersburg, Florida 33716. The third option allows the public to submit comments by email before or during the meeting at public comments with an S, publiccomments@psta.net. If the public comments received before or during the meeting are 400 words or less, we will read them aloud during the meeting during the appropriate time for public comment. Public comment that exceeds 400 words will be provided to the board members in writing. Any comments, any documents that the public submitted to the clerk have been provided to the board members prior to this meeting. All comments submitted will be included as part of the public record for this meeting and will be considered by the Finance Committee prior to any action being taken. When addressing the committee, the member of the public must first state his or her name and his or her address. This meeting is being recorded. By continuing to participate in the meeting by electronic means, all those that speak are consenting to the recording of this meeting and all comments. Please silence all cell phones or other noise-making devices. PSTA is using a cloud platform called WebEx for video and audio conferencing of this meeting across committee members' mobile devices, desktops, and telephones. The public also has the ability to view this meeting through a live stream on PSTA's youtube.com page, where you can access it or by clicking on the link on PSTA's website. The public is not required to purchase or download any additional software or equipment to watch this meeting. Here is the process I, as chair, will use to run the meeting. I will be assisted in this virtual meeting by PSTA's IT Director, Ms. Julie Cagliostro. Julie, can you wave, please? Okay,
Good morning.
thank you. Thank you. Currently, all mics are on mute. For each item on the agenda, after the staff presentation, I will call on each one of you by name to ask questions or make comments in alphabetical order. That would be Richard Bennett, Vince Cox, Dan Saraki, Josh Schulman, and then myself. Sometimes I'll reverse the order as well. When I call on you to speak, unmute your mic by clicking the mic button at the bottom of the screen. Turn your mic back on your mute button back on when you're finished. This will help alleviate any background noises. I would also like to ask everyone to speak clearly and directly into your microphone. Okay, now for the record, I would like to confirm that all of you can speak and see each other so that we can do a roll call. Richard Bennett, can you see me?
You hear me?
Yeah, now I can. Okay, Vince Cox? Vince, unmute yourself for a second.
I'm working on it.
Okay, you got it. Dan Saraki? Dan, unmute yourself.
I'm here.
Okay. Okay, and Josh Schulman?
I can hear you.
Okay, and you can hear me, Committee Chair Joe Barkley. Okay. Clarissa, have you received any written public comments?
On the phone, wishing to speak.
Okay, there's somebody on the phone you're saying?
We have not No, we do not have any public comments on the phone. Nor
Okay.
did we receive any written public comments.
Okay, very good. All right, so now we're going to move on to the action items. Again, please make sure your mic is on mute during the staff presentation. I will call on each of you for questions and comments. And when it's time to vote, to help Rachel out, state your name when making and seconding a motion. Voting will be by roll call vote, so I will call on each of you, in other words. Okay, our first action item is for approval of the March 2020 minutes. Are there any additions and corrections to the March 20 minutes? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the March 11th minutes?
Josh Schulman, I make a motion that we approve the March minutes.
Dan Saraki, I second.
Okay, roll call vote, please. Answer when I call your name. Richard Bennett. Unmute your mic, Richard.
Mr. Bennett, I've unmuted you. You may speak, please.
No, he's muted.
Richard Bennett,
Richard,
please just say yes, you're unmuted.
Yes.
okay, Vince Cox.
You're unmuted as well.
Yes.
Okay, Dan Saraki.
Yes.
And Josh Schulman.
Yes.
Okay, and I vote yes as well, so that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, the first item on our agenda is the state lobbyist contract renewal. Al Burns, would you please unmute your mic, and we'll hold all questions for the end. Al, go ahead and do your presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. Al Burns, Director of Procurement. This morning, action item 3B is for state lobbyist contract. The action to approve is to extend the contract with RSA Consulting Group, LLC, for the final option year in an amount of $8,500. If there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, so hearing no questions, do I have a motion to recommend approval of our state lobbyist contract extension with RSA Consulting for 1 more year? Please state your
Mr.
name
Chair?
when you make a. Yes.
Yeah, Josh Schulman, Mr. Chair, I didn't ask any questions because I wasn't sure if you were going in order and asking us if we had questions, but I do have
Okay.
a question.
Okay, let's back up. Go ahead, present with your questions. Thank you.
Al, is this, have we received any approval from the legislative committee? Because I believe in the past we had asked the legislative committee to weigh in on the lobbyist contracts.
Prior to this meeting, when we were having legislative committee meetings, this action was brought before the legislative committee, sir.
And did they, I'm guessing they approved the
Yes, sir.
moving forward? Okay, thank you. That was my question.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Thank you, Josh. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the RSA Consulting contract for 1 additional year? Please state your name when you make a motion or a second.
Mr. Chair, Dan Saraki, I make a motion to approve.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Josh Schulman, I second the motion.
Okay, thank you very much. Roll call vote. Richard Bennett.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
I have a question about why, when I made the motion, I wasn't heard.
I'm sorry. You probably did not have your mic on. I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
I don't understand why we have our mics off. Just leave them all on. When we're at the meeting, they're all on so that we can talk.
Okay.
I don't
It's
like my
background
mic
noise.
to shut off.
It's a background noise issue. That's why we don't.
I don't have any.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry about that, Richard. Okay, so
I vote yes.
okay, and Vince, Commissioner Cox.
Yes.
Okay, and Commissioner Saraki.
Yes.
Okay, and Commissioner Schulman.
Yes.
Okay, and I vote yes as well. Thank you very much. Vote passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, now, Al, second issue is the federal lobbyist contract.
Mr. Chair.
Would you go ahead and present this particular item?
Okay, action item 3C is for the federal lobbyist contract. Action to approve is a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options at Van Scoik Associates Incorporated for federal lobbyist services. The total contract amount is not to exceed $420,000 and authorize the CEO to exercise the 2 one-year options. If there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to field them.
Okay. Questions, anyone? Commissioner Bennett, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Okay, Commissioner Cox, questions?
No, I have no questions.
Okay, Commissioner Saraki?
Mr. Chair, I have no questions.
Okay, and Commissioner Schulman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No questions.
Okay, all right, and then I'm going to ask for a motion. Do I have a second to have a motion to recommend approval of the federal lobbyist contract with Van Skoyak Associates. Please state your name if you're making the motion.
Richard Bennett, I move that we approve the contract.
And I'll second that.
Vince Cox.
Vince Cox, I will second.
I think we lost Chair Barkley. Did we lose our chair? Julie?
Let's take a momentary pause while we face this technical matter.
Okay. He died. What happened to him?
Put me in, coach.
Josh, you want to go ahead and fill in for
I can. I'm happy to do so. Julie, do you want? I can give Julie a few seconds here to see if Mr. Barkley is going to be back.
I'm checking in right now. I will report back in about a minute or so.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and move forward with 3D, the strategic communication.
Josh, I
summary.
think we need to take a vote. We need to take a
Okay,
vote
do we?
on the
Okay.
phone.
You're correct. I apologize. There was a motion and a second on the federal lobbyist contract from a roll call vote. Commissioner Bennett,
Yes,
how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Cox,
Commissioner Cox, yes.
Commissioner Saraki,
Dan Saraki, yes.
and I vote yes as well. That passes unanimously. And now we're ready to move forward with the strategic communication. Mr. Burns?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Schulman. This action item 3D is for strategic communications. The action today is to approve a one-year contract with 2 one-year options to Catalyst Communications Group for strategic communications. The total contract amount is not to exceed $180,000 and authorize the CEO to exercise the 2 one-year options. If there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, so starting with Mr. Bennett, do you have any questions?
I do, Richard Bennett, I do not have any questions.
Commissioner Cox?
Vince Cox, no questions.
Commissioner Saraki?
Yes, I do have a question. Al, I did some research last night on this company in Tampa. Have you worked with them before?
The agency has been working with Catalyst Communications, and the relationship that we have is very strong.
That question is perfect. Thank you. No more questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Saraki.
Hello,
I
I came
did have-
back on the wrong way.
Oh,
I came back on as owner. I'm sorry. That just seems to be the first choice.
Owner.
Okay. Let me take over and let me know.
Chair Barkley is there. Chair, can you hear us? I'll try again. Chair, can you hear us now that you have your headphones on?
Yes, I do. I can hear you now.
We are in item 3D, going through questions.
Okay.
If you'd like, you could take over from here, or if you want, I was the next one with questions, so.
Okay. All right. This is, we're
the-
talking about the strategic communication contract?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry that I, somehow my computer went dead and I had to come back in again. Sorry.
So, Al, there was it seemed like a pretty large discrepancy between all of the scores. Was there something that stood out to you in this that maybe explains that discrepancy?
Yes, sir. Very good question, and I'm glad that you noticed that. One of the major differences was the pricing. Catalyst Communications received the full 100 points, along with National Strategies. They also received the full 100 points. The closest the closest firm next to that 100 points was HCP Associates, and their pricing, their score out of 100 points was 46.15. So that was from a pricing perspective. That was one of the major differences. Also, the committee members that were on the evaluation committee, Atlas Communications, they brought a very strong proposal to the table. And as you can see, they scored the highest in the column for qualifications, experience, and background. Out of 400 points, they received the maximum points of 383.75. In the demonstration of strategic thinking and creative approach, they also ranked the highest with 278.75. The closest score after that was a 247, which was HCP as Associates. The next evaluation criterion was understanding approach to the scope of work, and out of 200 points, they received they received 190 points, and the person that came in second in that was 170 points. Once again, Catalyst Communications, their message or their proposal was in line with what the solicitation required from an evaluation perspective, and that's reflective in the evaluation committee scores.
Okay, I'm sorry, Brad.
Commissioner Shulman, if I could just add just a quick little bit, because it's a good question. As we noted in the or in the remarks, we previously bundled this in with our marketing, our traditional marketing contract that we are separately procuring now, and we pulled this piece out, which is mostly like media relations. And some of the firms that proposed are really marketing firms. They didn't really understand exactly what we were looking for, and I think that some of the lowest scored proposals that were way outside the mark were really like marketing, advertising kind of companies. I think that's probably the reason why there was such a span of scores.
Thank you for that. That's helpful. Al, I'm glad you brought up the price. The main issue that just jumped out to me is we had two firms that were at 100, and then all of the other ones were clustered at around the 40, 45 point range. So, I immediately was thinking, which group is right? Are the 100 folks, yes, or are they just pricing them lower and it's going to be unable to deliver, or the 45 point area, is that the correct pricing? Again, I don't know what the actual prices were, but it was odd that we had two separate groups. It wasn't a distribution from the pricing aspect.
Great observation, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sir. I don't have any questions.
Okay, anyone else have questions? Okay, do I have a motion to recommend approval of a contract with Catalyst Communications Group not to exceed the $180,000 contract amount? Please state your name if you make a recommendation or a second.
Richard Bennett, I vote yes.
Okay, we're not voting yet, Richard, but I'll take that as a motion.
Yes,
I thought
Blackie,
we did that
second.
already.
Okay, Dan, you're seconding. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to call the roll, and I'm going to reverse it for this time. And I vote aye. Commissioner Schulman,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
and Commissioner Bennett. I'm going to assume you're yes also. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, and let's move on now, Al, to the tire lease program.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Action item 3E is for tire lease. To approve is a 2-year contract with 3 one-year options to Goodyear Rubber and Tire Company for the leasing of our tires. The total contract amount for this is not to exceed $1,775,000 and authorize the CEO to exercise the 3 one-year options. On this, I would like to make a special note. My boss, Debbie Leas, Henry Lukasik, the director of maintenance, and I, we worked with the finance group and asked them if it was okay if we removed the federal clauses out of this solicitation, because we both thought it would garner significant savings. Currently, our maintenance department budgets $518,000 annually for $2,152,000 over the course of 5 years. With this new contract, we are expecting to our annual to go down to 354,000, approximately 354,000, which is approximately a 31.5% savings, or over the 5 years to 1,773,000, which is a 17.6% savings for the agency. So I'm really excited about that, and I just want to kind of on that and give my staff a bunch of kudos on that, and the maintenance group as well. So once again, action item for this, action item 3E, is to approve a 2-year contract with 3 one-year options for tires with the Goodyear Rubber and Tire Company for a total contract amount not to exceed $1,775,000, and authorize the CEO to exercise the 3 one-year options. If there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to take them.
Okay, Kyle, I have a couple of questions. First of all, what are the federal provisions that we would exclude? And does that expose us to any additional liability in any way?
Some of the federal clauses that we would include in our federally funded solicitations are ADA accessibility. Number 1 is Buy American requirement. Access to public records from a federal perspective, not sunshine perspective, just to name a few. In total, there are approximately 45 different federal clauses that are included in a federal solicitation. When you include all those federal clauses, it becomes a very administrative burden for the people that respond to it, because oftentimes the big firms, they take the time and they look up each and every provision to make sure that their agency is in line with those provisions.
Okay. And then the second question I had was, with Michelin, we had a problem with procuring tires, and we had to go outside and acquire tires with another methodology. Goodyear is going to be able to handle our needs without a problem?
Very good point, sir. We did have problems with Michelin. They were able to correct those problems after being formally given cure notice. We met with the Michelin executives, and they did make several attempts to turn around the problem. With this solicitation, typically you would go out for an IFB, or an invitation for bid, which is strictly based off of price. This time, to make sure that Henry, the director of maintenance, Joseph Cheney, the deputy director of maintenance, and I, we huddled up, and we thought it was in the best interest to go out for a request for proposal. What that means was price plays a factor, but we wanted to make sure responsiveness, being able to make sure that the companies had the facilities to be able to provide the tires that we need, and Goodyear hit the mark on that. I would like to let you know that Goodyear, prior to the Michelin contract, Goodyear was our tire provider, and because the federal clauses have been removed, we are still getting a good, solid tire.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the Goodyear Tire Company contract for 5 years at no more than $1,775,000?
Richard Bennett, I approve the tire lease contract for
Okay.
$1,775,000.
Okay. Thank you for your motion. And do I have a second?
Josh Schulman, I second.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Roll call vote. Richard Bennett.
Richard Bennett, I vote yes.
Okay. Vince Cox.
Vince Cox, yes.
Dan Saraki.
Dan Saraki, yes.
Okay. Josh Schulman.
Josh Schulman, yes.
Okay, and Joseph Barkley, yes. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. That's good savings for us. Thank you very much to you, Al, and to Henry, and to anyone else who was working on this contract.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Our next topic is Art in Transit contract. Abhishek Dayal and Al Burns. Would you proceed with this one?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the Finance Committee. Hopefully you can see me and hear me.
Yes, you can. Yep.
My name is Abhishek Dayal, Director of Project Management Office. And the action item today is to recommend approval of an agreement with Cla Studio for design, fabrication, delivery of public art to support the Central Avenue Bus Rapid Transit project for a not to exceed amount of $662,500. This, as you recall, we had a funding agreement with City of St. Petersburg last year in March, where the city would provide local funds to have an artist design some public art for the Central Avenue BRT project. And that's what this agreement is. We've been working with the city to have an artist support the project. And we have an artist in Cla Studio who can do that. And so the request is to approve an agreement with the Cla Studio LLC for design, fabrication, and delivery of public art for the BRT project for a not to exceed amount of $662,500. With that, Al Burns and I would be happy to answer any questions for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions, anyone?
I have a question, Chairman.
Okay. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr.
The
Bennett.
$662,000, who gets that?
Sir, that's for the artist to design, fabricate, and have the installation, or excuse me, have the delivery of the art pieces to the site. So that is all going to the artist team, which is Cla Studio LLC.
How many sites?
We are still working with the artist on specific number of stations where this will go to, but generally we're looking at all the stations that are within City of St. Petersburg, which equals to about 21 stations of the 30 that we have planned for this project.
Well, since I'm talking, I'm not in favor of spending that kind of money for painting or arts at our waiting station. I think we could do that more amateurish with school kids or something, painting pictures. So I wouldn't be in favor of that.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
Vince, I think Vince has a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Vince.
Yeah, comment question. How much is St. Pete putting towards this, Abhishek? City of St. Pete.
So this is entirely paid by City of St. Pete. There are no capital reserves funds or any PSTA funds involved in this
Okay, that's all.
project.
Thank you.
This,
Thank you.
effort.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Josh Schulman. Josh Schulman, I have a question.
Sure.
So has the City of St. Petersburg weighed in on this provider? Is this who they want to use for the art in their city?
Yes, sir. They have identified this artist as the preferred artist to carry on the work for the project.
So they've selected the artist, they've funded the artist, and from our standpoint, we are merely the pass-through to make that happen as part of this project.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do we, Abhishek, this is Joe Barkley. Do we have any kind of indication of what this, do we have any drafts or preliminary renderings of what this would look like, and where will these be placed?
So we have been working with the artist as we were completing the design for the project. And some places that we have identified the artist to support are the shelters, specifically glass panels on the shelters. Cla Studio, Catherine Woods, who's the artist here, Her specialty is in glass panels, and she's done a lot of work around the county with glass panels, colored glass panels. If you might have seen the new police station in city of St. Petersburg by 13th Street, there's a sculpture made with metal and glass, and that's something that her team has done. She's also worked on the city of Seminoles, the city center. There's a pretty elaborate sculpture there, again made with glass and metal. And then more closer to home, at PSTA offices, right above the reception, if you see that the glass sort of a mosaic, that's something that she has done as well. So her specialty is in glass, colored glass. So we felt that it was a very good fit for our project because that's what we're assuming for the design for the stations. So that's where her pieces will eventually go once it's all designed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Josh Schulman.
Yes.
Well, one additional question. So do we have, as far as coordination with our overall design and marketing, branding of the BRT, do we have input as to the end product of these panels or whatever the art installations are, or is this being handed off to someone else?
No, it's a very collaborative effort. We've been working with our branding consultant, as well as our marketing team, as well as city's marketing team to make sure that this is whatever comes out of it is reflective of the community, certainly the project branding and project design. So it's a very collaborative effort, and it'll continue to be throughout the whole process.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Abhishek, I have a question. Our waiting booths are open to the public, and they're open to the weather. They're open to, unfortunately, vandalism, etc. With these kind of dollars, 600, even if it's not our money, how will these be protected so that we don't have a loss on these artworks?
And that's a very valid question. That's something we've actually asked the artist to keep in mind, that these are public spaces that she will be designing, much like the police, the new police station building or the Seminole City Center, where all those sculptures were designed for more of a public setting, and they are going to be hardened and allow for easy maintenance for our team as well. So those are parameters that we have given to the artist team to make sure that when they're designing those, they are hardened, ruggedized, and they also are nice and something that the community can be proud of.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Do I hear a motion for approval on an agreement with Glass Studio for the art project?
Mr. Chair, Dan Saraki, I make a motion to approve art in transit contract.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Do I hear
Josh
a second?
Schulman, I second.
Okay. Thank you very much. Roll call vote. Richard Bennett?
Yes, I cannot vote positive for this motion unless I see something in it that says the total cost is going to be funded by the city of St. Petersburg. So I vote no.
Okay. Thank you. Vince Cox?
Yes, Vince.
Okay. Dan Saraki?
Dan Saraki votes yes.
And Josh Schulman?
Josh Schulman votes yes.
Okay. And I vote yes as well. Passes 4-1. Thank you very much, everyone. And
Thank you.
Our next contract, the item is the maintenance employee uniform rental contract value adjustment. Al, would you please explain this one to us?
I respectfully ask, Mr. Chair, that my counterpart, Mr. Henry Lukasik, take the lead. And if there's any procurement questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, very good. Henry, we're looking forward to hearing from you. Henry, you have to unmic.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So, good morning, everyone. So the action item before you is a formality, which is to increase the previously not to exceed limit to UniFirst Corporation by $40,000, basically to get us to the end of the contract, which will expire in July 2020. The original contract was awarded back in 2015, and purchasing has a new solicitation out on the street, which proposals will be due on May 14th. So basically, the increase in value to the contract is attributed to, one, when we put the solicitation out in 2015, that was basically using 2015 numbers and reasonable projections. So we've had some staff turnover since that time. We've had some increases in staff, and basically the $40,000 is to get us to August of this year, just in case contract award is delayed due to the coronavirus. If that $40,000 is not needed, then it will not be used. One thing to note is that uniform leasing is budgeted as an annual expense in the maintenance operating line item. So the expense has been budgeted. This is just to increase the not to exceed limit that was approved previously.
So, Mr. Chair, the action item before us is to increase the amount of the UniFirst Corporation contract value by $40,000 for a total total contract value not to exceed $230,828.
Okay, just to clarify then, so $190,828 was the original bid contract, and we're now adding 40,000 to that number to get the 230,828. Is that correct?
I just want to make a clarification on that, sir.
Yeah.
The original contract value in 2015 was $109,828. In September 2018, we asked for an $81,000 increase. And if we go back to the record or go back to that action item, that was because mats, towels, and shop rags were left out of the original action item. So, and today we're asking to increase by an additional $40,000. That brings us to the total of $230,828. I just wanted to clarify that, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, questions, anyone? Okay, hearing no questions, could I have a motion to increase the maintenance uniforms contract by $40,000 in order to carry that contract through till August of 2020?
Richard Bennett, I make a motion that we approve action item 3.8.
Okay, thank you, Richard. And do I hear a second?
Vince Cox, I second.
Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to go to a roll call vote. Thank you, Richard and Vince. I'm going to go to a roll call vote. Josh Schulman?
Josh Schulman, yes.
Dan Saraki?
Dan Surratt, yes.
Vince Cox?
Vince Cox, yes.
Richard Bennett?
Richard Bennett, yes.
And I, Joseph Barkley, also am yes. That approves unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. Next item, the Lyft contract value amendment. And I see Bonnie's picture up on my screen here. So Bonnie, would you take it from here, please?
Yeah, sure. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Good morning, Finance Committee. So again, my name is Bonnie Epstein. I'm a senior planner here at PSTA, and I oversee the implementation of PSTA's innovative programs. So this is an action item for you to recommend to the full board to amend PSTA's contract with Lyft for $100,000. So this would be to continue our mobility on demand program for the next few months. So this action item is very similar to the item we just heard. These funds are already in our existing dark budget, and we're just adding funds to the existing contract with Lyft. So in December 2019, the board approved a contract amendment with Lyft to extend our base agreement by $200,000. And that's enough to get us through till April 2020, when we would complete a procurement for PSCA's innovative programs, all of the innovative programs, including mobility on demand. So while we've started the procurement process, we have delayed the final proposal submission until May 2020. Since our original procurement deadline or timeline has been extended, we'll need a stopgap measure to extend our contract with Lyft by $100,000 to keep the MOD program operating, even though there's significantly reduced demand during this time. So again, the action item this morning is to recommend approval of a second amendment to the Lyft contract for an additional $100,000 so we continue to provide MOD service on Lyft until the innovative program procurement is complete.
Okay. Do we have an updated time frame when we're going to be doing the next contract?
Yes, so I think we'll be bringing this, Al, you can correct me if I'm wrong, to the June 2020 board meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Any questions from this board?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Vince Cox here. Hey, Bonnie, have we seen quite a downturn in our business with the MOD?
Yes, so the past few weeks we've seen a decrease below 50%. This past week has been even greater drop. I don't know, maybe 30% of our usual volume, and the trips are mainly for shopping and doctor's appointments.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Josh Holman. First one's a comment, just actually to Commissioner Bennett. I know your microphone's not muted, and I'm picking up what Bonnie's saying through your microphone on your speaker. So if you could actually mute your mic when doing presentations, that would be helpful, so I'm not hearing it 3 times in my ear. The question I did have, Bonnie, so we're extending the contract for $100,000. That is, not to exceed, or it's still being charged by use. Okay, and I realize, given current circumstances and travel needs, it's a little difficult to foresee how long that will last. But do you have a thought about the time frame that you would expect that money to last?
So, with the volume that we have now, the $100,000 will last, at least 3 months. I haven't seen it. So we have our March bill that we just took care of, but I don't really know what the April bill is going to be like. If it's based on usage, the $100,000 will last us at least 3 months if we're doing what we're currently doing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I have a couple of questions. Brad, one of the things that we've talked about repeatedly is, for want of a better term, misuse of our program by people who should be using another program for transportation. Is that being monitored in any way to make sure that that's minimized?
Thank you. That's a good question, Chair Barkley, and I'm sure Bonnie can answer this as well. We've had issues in the past with some of our innovative programs about, especially the late night, we call our TD late shift program, where folks are, it's designed to get people home from late night jobs. And in the past, we've seen some questionable trip making in the middle of the night. That's not really what the program that Bonnie is speaking of and that we use Lyft primarily for. We use Lyft for our mobility on demand program, which provides, people with disabilities rides, real-time rides, mostly during the day. And, we're not seeing, we don't really have a concern with, it can be used for any kind of trip making. During this coronavirus epidemic, it's obviously way low. Lots of people that ride that are disabled are elderly folks, and they're not making nearly as many trips.
Okay, thank you. The other question I have is, what is the source of these funds?
So we're using the existing DART budget to fund this program. So we initially were using FTA dollars. Those have been spent, and now we're using our operating budget.
Okay. All right. So, even though we're asking for 100,000 to tide us over, this is probably not going to be fully expended, correct?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Okay, we're asking for $100,000, but with reduced usage due to coronavirus and probably people just not going anywhere. That 100,000 probably will not be fully expended, correct?
Right. I mean, if we're able to take this to the June board, we probably won't spend everything. I just wanted to make sure that, I don't have to come back next month and say, it's possible if our RFP, don't know what's going to happen, gets extended, we don't have to come back in May or June and ask for more.
Okay. All right, very good. Any other questions? Okay, do I hear a motion to approve an additional $100,000 allocation of funding for the Lyft contract extension?
Mr. Chair, Dan Saraki, I make a motion to approve Lyft contract extension 3.H.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion, Vince Cox.
Okay, Vince, thank you. All right. Let me call the roll here. Richard Bennett?
I vote yes.
Okay. Vince Cox?
Vince Cox, yes.
Okay, Dan Saraki?
Dan Saraki, yes.
Okay, Josh Schulman?
Josh Schulman, yes.
Okay, and Joe Barkley, yes. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Bonnie. Appreciate it. Okay. Now, now last but not least, we finally get to our audit firm recommendation. We're going to be conducting 3 brief interviews with our top 3 firms. I'm not sure how we're going to handle that exactly, but Al, would you take that project and explain it to us?
Sir, good morning, Mr. Chair, again, Al Burns. Julie, if it's okay, I would like to share my screen at this time.
Yes.
Okay.
Today's action is to bring forward the top 3 firms in ranked order to the April 22nd Board of Directors meeting. Just a status update, just kind of rewinding a little bit. I apologize, Mr. Chair. First, I would like to commend my staff member, Ms. Edith Randall. She's been working with me on the solicitation throughout the whole process. And I think we all can agree that this has been a long, daunting process, but I can see the finish line. And I just want to acknowledge her and all her hard work that she's done in helping me through this solicitation. With the status update, I'd like to just take a rewind in time. And the Finance Committee, you approved the evaluation criteria, which was a statutory requirement. You all signed conflict of confidentiality and conflict of interest forms and have been submitted. We received 6 responses. We asked people, subject matter experts from T-BARTA, Manatee, and Pinellas County, and internal staff to serve as subject matter experts and do a review of the proposals and rank the proposals rank the proposals as they saw. The subject matter experts, all their proposals, scores, and comments were sent to the Finance Committee in advance, and all 6 proposals were brought to you at the last Finance Committee meeting. At the conclusion of the last Finance Committee meeting, this is the ranking. Clifton Larson Allen, LLP, at 950 points. Sherry Beckert, LLP, at 946 points. And Plant Moran, PLLC, at 890 points. Next steps. First, we'll be giving a presentation today. Recommend rank firms to the Board of Directors on April as an action item. Just a friendly reminder, in accordance with Florida statute, the Board of Directors selects the firm. However, state law requires the board to approve the Finance Committee's #1 ranked firm unless they document in writing why a lower ranked firm is selected. And upon approval, staff will enter into negotiations with the selected firms. Prior to the meeting, I asked all of the firms to do a short video presentation so you can actually put a face to a name when they're presenting this morning. Brad came up with that idea, and I think it was a great one. And I actually was surprised at some of the innovative and some of the videos that they put together, and I hope you enjoyed them as well. Yes, Commissioner Shulman.
Just a quick question.
Yep.
As far as the ranking goes, the board needs to approve the ranking that we're, unless they have a documented reason otherwise, they're approving the #1 we picked today, not based on any prior scores, or the prior scores part of that calculus.
Based on what you picked today, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, based on how you ranked today.
Understood.
So I believe the first form that I would like to just point, if we could hold any discussions until after all firms have presented. I respectfully request that no discussions be had on any presentation until all firms have presented. I would advise you that there's potentially going to be a lag time of 30 seconds between each firm, and I'll try to entertain you the best I can in that 30-second lag time. Are there any questions?
Go ahead.
With that, I would like Edith, if you can escort, or if you can admit Sherry Beckert to the meeting.
Hello, this is Scott Anderson.
Good morning, Scott. Hang on one second. My screen is. Good morning, Scott. This is Al. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing outstanding. At this time, I would like to turn over the screen. You can share your screen at your pleasure and start your presentation.
Well, thank you, committee, for having us here today. On behalf of Cherry Becker, I'm pleased to present our proposal for audit services of the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority. My name is Scott Anderson. Joining me today is John Gilberto, our quality review partner, and Lauren Strope, our proposed senior manager on the engagement.
Good morning. This is John Gilberto. As Scott said, I am a partner with Cherry Beckert, and I will be the quality review partner for engagement. And so I wanted to start to tell you a little bit about us and our services to local governments. It's our focus. It's what we do. We have a dedicated governmental services group, and we have over 150 governmental clients and over 200 of our employees, and we have about 1,300 employees are dedicated to serving the government industry. Currently, we are actually up to 123,000 hours of audit service time that we provide to those 150 clients every year. The interesting thing here is in those hours, we test billions of dollars of federal grants. And as with the COVID X money and all the money coming out for the CARES Act, there's going to be a lot more grants coming out. And of those monies, the biggest one we do is Department of Transportation, your grants. We understand and we audit over $1 billion of Department of Transportation grants, just like you have. And also related to the National Transit Database, we do several, as you'll see in this next slide, where we understand the needs and the requirements of the agreed upon procedures that you need to follow. Our team, as Scott said, we are a dedicated service group team, and the team will be, Scott Anderson will be your lead. He'll be your focus director, service provider, partner. I will be the quality reviewer. That's an independent review process that we do that's away from the team that looks at your financial statements before they're issued to make sure that you're in compliance with all the standards, requirements, and GASB. Ron Conrad, who is also one of our technical reviewers for government, is also a technical and is available throughout the year anytime he is needed by the team. Lauren Strope is a director and also in our Tampa office, and she is going to be a manager that will oversee the day-to-day processes, application of the audit procedures, and the work paper preparation and review before it gets to Scott and gets to me. Christine Homack is our partner. She is a dedicated minority women-owned firm. She will be part. She has extensive experience in the government industry. She actually used to be an internal auditor for the city of Tampa. She will be focusing on internal controls, and also the NTD AUP will be her focus. Our staff also is a dedicated team. They are going to be made up of seniors and staff that understand Yellow Book and government accounting. And the team is the same team from start to finish. So we don't change out people on you. What you see at the beginning is what you get through the whole process. And we train our staff so you don't have to. We focus on those 150 clients. About a third of our clients are in the transportation area, from buses to planes to trains. It's the focus that we really have focused on here in Cherry Beckard. As you can see, some of the clients that we do are just like you with HART and Go Triangle. And then CATS, we do a lot of the different bus systems throughout the Southeast in our footprint. And again, transportation is our focus. That's why we do so much in the Department of Transportation grant area. It's not part-time for us. We really love it. So we look forward to talking with you.
We are very aware that the environment in which you operate requires you to not only be price conscious, but to be able to plan and budget upcoming expenditures with some level of accuracy. At Cherry Beckard, we are committed to our proposed fixed fee. As an investment in a long-term relationship, we eat all the upfront costs associated with auditor transition. And we expect it to take longer in the first year as we work to develop our understanding of your organization. And all of that is work into our fee proposal. As your auditor, we are available year-round for questions and consultations. In fact, should a question or a concern arise, we would prefer you reach out to us. It's always easier to address something in real time than months after the fact. We do not charge for these routine calls. In fact, if a request is made for an additional project outside of the scope of our audit, we will discuss any fees related to that before we start on the project. One of the questions asked for us to address is what our rate per hour is. On our proposed fee, the weighted average rate per hour is approximately $120. As your auditor, we will be proactive about educating and consulting on new GASBs. As far as we're concerned, a client in the know is the best kind of client to have. So we do everything we can to provide information early on. The two highest profile GASB standards issued but not yet implemented is GASB 84 and 87. And we already began talking to our clients about these standards years ago. And we're paying attention to the implementation delays that are currently being proposed for those two standards. We are also paying attention to some pretty big changes proposed by GASB, such as the proposed changes to the conceptual framework and the financial reporting model. We also put together a government benchmark survey every year. Many of our clients find it useful to see what other governments think or are doing. The survey covers a wide range of topics from employee benefits to cybersecurity, and that survey is available to you upon request. One of the ways that we keep clients informed is through webinars that are free of charge. Lauren and I are presenters or past presenters on these webinars. A good example of this is with GASB 84. I made a presentation to our clients on GASB 84 in August of 2018, more than 2 years before the standard is to be implemented. During that presentation, I provided the following chart to assist clients in navigating the standard. Now, I apologize for the image. This was not meant to fit on a slide, but this is a tool that I provided during that presentation to our clients, and it became quite popular as it helps relegate the entire standard into a simple decision tree. And still to this day, I get requests from clients and non-clients alike for copies of this flowchart.
Good morning. I am Lauren Strope, and I would be delighted to be your senior manager. There was a question on whether or not we would perform interim procedures, and this is a brief overview of our risk-based audit approach. Understanding the inherent risk and internal controls over that risk lead to our overall risk assessment, which is the plan for how we will conduct the entire audit. And that's what we at Cherry Bekaert consider to be interim procedures. It's usually about a week on site with 2 people, and then review and planning time, which we do in the office, and it's about 100 hours, and that is included in the proposed amount. So we do plan on doing interim, and it is in the proposal. If you look at our proposed timeline, which I did want to mention, we would be happy to adjust with management as needed, especially in consideration of the current event. So we would work with management to ensure that this is the timeline that they want to work with. But as you can see, we do plan to complete interim procedures in the August through October timeframe.
We are well aware that many view audits as a commodity service. Indeed, the audit opinion that we issue will be nearly identical to the one you received last year. It's a prescribed template that all the firms use. But where we believe we are different is in our 5 client commitments. Simply put, we do what we say we're going to do. We don't mess deadlines. We stay ahead of the accounting guidance. And wherever possible, especially during the transition, we commit to make it as easy as possible. And with that, we have a couple minutes left in our allotment, so I open it up to any questions that you may have for me or members of my team.
Go ahead, Clyde. Yes, Al? Al, I see your hand up. Unmute yourself, Al.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, I believe some of you have questions that you wanted to ask, and I would like to just take the lead on just going through the committee members. And Mr. Bennett, do you have any questions of Cherry Bekaert, sir?
Yes, if I could just get Scott to answer one question for me. I'd kind of like to know what the communication plan is, how you intend to communicate to our upper management about deficiencies that you might find, and how often will that communication occur?
That is a good question. We do not like surprises, and we don't anticipate that you like surprises either. And no one in your management likes surprises. Anytime we find something that is a potential deficiency, we communicate it to the appropriate level immediately. Sometimes it's a misunderstanding on our part. Sometimes it really is something that needs to be addressed. And from there, when it's determined that it is actually a finding, then it gets escalated to upper levels of management. We want them involved early in order to determine the corrective action.
Just to follow up on that, do you have different levels of findings? Are we going to be able to take corrective action immediately and correct a little small problem?
There are different levels of findings. We have material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that will actually get reported in your Yellow Book report. Management letter comments get reported in the management letter. Those three categories are the three that we would communicate along the process that I just described. Sometimes we find small things when we're doing walkthroughs of internal controls that we just consider to be verbal comments. Those we don't necessarily escalate unless it's your desire that we do so.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Cox, I believe you had a question or some questions as well, sir.
I do. Vince Cox, my question is, since you are auditing our financials, how much comfort does that give going into the NTD audit? How do you handle areas that aren't completed yet while moving the FS audit and the NTD audit forward, since they will overlap a month or so?
Lauren, would you like to answer this question?
Sure thing. I'm actually working on an NTD report right now, so that's great timing. Usually what we'll do is we'll make sure that we don't have any journal entries on our end so that the trial balance that PSTA has is solid. And then from there, we get any of the financial reports that are being included in the NTD AUP and tie those to the CAFR. And usually we have that stuff just as soon as the CAFR is issued, we can get that done. A lot of the other information for the NTD report that is not financial in nature, as soon as PSTA has that information ready, we can go ahead and get those particular procedures done. So really, we'll work with PSTA as far as when it is that they want to issue the NTD report. But as soon as the CAFR is done, we can get that going too, and we can be ready to do both at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Mr. Saraki, do you have a question?
Thank you, Al. Yes, I do have one question. The question is, what tools do you have available for the pension entry?
So you're talking about the pension implementation that occurred a few years ago?
Correct.
Okay. And my understanding is that the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority is a part of the state plan. Is that correct? If I remember the financial statements?
Yes, that is correct.
In that case, we use the same tool that the state provides. For all of those pension plans, they provide a detailed spreadsheet of the journal entry that should be made, as well as the support for the footnotes. Does that answer your question? That's what we use for all of the state plan audit.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Vice Chair Shulman, do you have any questions, sir?
Al, yes, thanks. I have at least two. The first one, you pretty much answered in your presentation. I was going to ask if you're prepared with guidance on GASB 87. And you said that you are and you have been working. So can you speak a little bit to the guidance you've been giving or the implementation that you see coming with GASB 87?
Sure, and if anybody else on my team wants to add to this, so GASB 87 is a big standard. FASB has led the way, so private companies have been leading the way on this. We have done several trainings on this. We are using a software called Lease Crunch that is being configured to do it the GASB way. It was initially rolled out with FASB, and it'll be modified so that GASB can do it. And what that software does is it allows you to input your leases, and then it spits out the adjustments for you. We're available for consultation. We still have clients calling us to consult on how to do that standard. And we have somebody working on it right now who is going to put together a tool to further help that. The good thing about that, what's happening right now is that standard, yesterday the GASB proposed to extend the implementation on it, and so it may get actually pushed out for another year.
I understand. Thank you. Second question, was just you had mentioned that you have an outside partner working on some items, and I was trying to take notes while you were mentioning that, and I didn't get the areas that they were going to be working on. I know one was the NTD. What areas do you expect to use the outside partner for?
Yeah, so I've worked with Christine on other engagements before, and she's fairly versatile. What we had proposed on our proposal to you was for her to work on the NTD AUP. But she is well equipped to work on other aspects of the audit.
She will also be available for us as we go through the internal control process and look at the internal controls. She is a certified internal auditor and a fraud auditor, so she is a good resource for us to bounce things off of if we need her. But as Scott said, she will be doing all the NTD work under our supervision. And so we'll do the planning, she'll do the majority of the actual field work, we'll do the review and the acceptance process of that. And again, she'll be available for our internal control testing and documentation along the way if need be.
Thank you.
Okay. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, sir, we can hear you fine.
Okay. So if there are no other questions, I have a couple of questions. First question is, you had a slide where you showed a number of different transportation entities that you've worked with. And I just wanted to ask, how many of those have had good CAFR reviews or other awards for your work?
Let's see. The majority of these actually do get their certificate of achievement from the GFOA, Lynx, Hart, MARTA, Go Triangle, I know, and also CATS and Miami Airport. They all do receive their certificate of achievement. So for excellence in financial reporting, they are all very, very competent in engagements with competent teams, and we do a lot with them to help them in their financial reporting process to make sure that they do receive their certificates from the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officer Association. So that is an area that we really are at. Several of our team, Scott, Lauren, as an example, are both reviewers for the GFOA for that certificate program. So we have a lot of resources that can help along the way in getting those certificates of excellence.
Okay, and again, with the same screen that you have here, what's the average length of time that you've been working with these entities?
They're all different. Go Triangle, we've been doing on and off. I think we didn't do it for 3 years, but for the last 15 years. Charlotte Transit, I think we've done for the last 11 years straight. Lynx, for the last 6 years straight, is still a current client. Hart we're working, they just extended us. We're on our 4th year with Hart. Miami Airport, we're on our 5th year and an active client. And MARTA has been on and off for about the last 14 years. It goes to another firm, comes back, goes to another firm, comes back. So the majority of them are long-term clients. They keep extending us, or if they go out to another firm, when they come back out for bid, they come back to us because of our resources and experience.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all my questions, Al.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brad, Debbie, if you don't have any questions, any additional questions, I'd like to move on to the next firm.
No additional questions from me.
I got the thumbs up from Brad. So, Chair Becker, I'm going to give you a couple seconds, about 15 seconds to leave the meeting. And I want to thank you for your time, and you will hear back from my office. Just as a reminder, we will be holding discussions after this at approximately the meeting.
We thank you for the opportunity to be your guide forward. Have a great day.
Edith, if you could admit, Andrew.
Morning. Morning, Mr. Burns. How's it going?
How you doing? Sorry.
All right, thank you. All right. Mr. Burns, can you confirm you can see the screen?
Thumbs up, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, esteemed members of the Finance Committee. We appreciate the opportunity to present to you today. As we present to you for the next few minutes, we really want to try to accomplish two things simply. The first one is to answer all the questions that were submitted to us by your Director of Procurement. We want to make sure that we've answered all of those questions that you had as you reviewed our proposal and looked at our qualifications. Secondly, once we've answered those questions, we really want to talk about why we believe CLA is actually the right choice for PSTA to do your audit, and really what makes us different. Obviously, you have very qualified firms that are going to be presenting to you today, and it's going to be difficult to know exactly what's different between one firm and the next, but we hope that we can sufficiently communicate what truly makes us different in the marketplace and what makes us special. So with that, I want to introduce your service team to you today. We did prepare a short video that kind of recapped exactly the role that each person will play. Since I know that you have that, we're not going to have everyone introduce themselves at this point in time, but I'll just recap who the key players are here. Obviously, I will serve as your engagement principal overseeing the entire audit. I'll also be assisted by Andrew Laughlin. Andrew's got quite a bit of experience working in a consulting capacity and other capacities with transportation agencies, and actually has served as your audit principal for the last 4 years as well. And so his depth of knowledge and experience working with transportation agencies will be very valuable. In addition, we have Danny Springfeld, who's a director with our firm. Unfortunately, Danny was not able to join. She was planning to be here today, but had a last-minute family emergency that she had to tend to. And we also have Andrew Osborne, that'll be on the call today. And then our lead senior, Kim Plabate, and then also Nathan Mann is also on the call. You'll notice there are two people that are absent from this slide. The first one is our quality reviewer. So at CLA, every single year, you'll have a different quality reviewer or a different member of that quality team that reviews the file. We do this so that throughout our term or our engagement with PSTA, you continually get a fresh look. It doesn't become stale. The people that serve on our National Assurance Committee are people that have worked on the AIC expert panel, that served on the GASB boards, that served on the AICPA. And so you can ensure that you're always getting a fresh perspective from someone that truly knows the industry. Secondly, you also see that our IT specialist is also not on the slide. The reason that you won't see the IT person listed here is that those IT professionals, so subject matter experts, work alongside of our team. We don't do that in a silo. Those individuals actually work with our team to make sure that they understand what internal controls are relevant, key IT processes, and other security matters, so that it's a very seamless effort between their team and ours. And that person may vary from time to time over the course of our procurement period. And so with that, I wanted to touch on why choose CLA. What makes us different? What is unique about CLA? And I believe there's two things that make us unique from our competitors. The first is just happens to be where we're at. As your incumbent, you really have a lot of institutional knowledge, and you've got a lot of time and investment with PSTA and working with our firm and our team. But in addition to having that institutional knowledge, you also have the option of working with CLA of having a principal and manager rotation. And so with that, we believe that institutional knowledge, what we already know about PSTA, and the fact that you have myself as a new principal to PSTA, not a new principal, but new to PSTA, serving as your lead, you'll have a fresh perspective. We also have proposed in this proposal a combination of both new and existing team members, so that you get that institutional knowledge and also that fresh look. And we believe that it ultimately benefits PSTA with an efficient, high-quality audit with little disruption to your staff. The second thing I think that makes us different is that we really do exist to create opportunities, and that's really our why. That's our simple mission. That's what we try to do. We believe it starts with our people. Without our people are really as important as our clients. Without our people, we can't serve any clients. We can't do anything. And so we spend a lot of time investing in our people in terms of training and making sure that we have the right people on the bus to serve you guys. Secondly, I'll say with our people, the people that are serving on your engagement or will be serving on your engagement are people that have actually raised their hand and say, I want to work in state and local government. So these people have not been placed in an industry. We allow people to build careers as they see fit at CLA. These people have selected local governments as their passion, as their focus. Ultimately, we believe that really benefits our clients. It means that if there's a question regarding how to prepare a governmental cash flow, or a question on the lease standard, or a question on pension or OPEB, or any of these other complex matters, you're working with a person that's excited to be in this industry and has experience working with others that can add some real value to the process. And we believe that whenever our people are performing their best and they're helping our clients, and we're creating opportunities for our clients to make PSTA better, we believe that ultimately makes our communities better. And so, and we do that two ways. One, when PSTA wins, Pinellas County wins. Secondly, the people that will be working on your engagement are local. They're people that live either in Pinellas County or surrounding areas. We have several of our employees that actually live in Pinellas County. And as a result of that, we're invested in the community. We know the great work that PSTA does. And so those are the two things that we believe really makes CLA different. And so switching gears just for a second, there were 5 questions that were provided to us that were specifically asked that we address those in our proposal. So at this time, we're going to kind of go through those questions in a methodical manner and try to answer those questions for you. And then we'd be glad to take any questions that you have once we've gone over these. The first question was, will CLA commit to the pricing in the first year if it takes longer than anticipated? So one of the benefits of us being the incumbent firm is we know exactly how long it takes to do your audit, and we are committed to our fee. Not only are we committed to our fee, we're committed to having the team that's in the proposal to serve you, and some of them have worked on the engagement in the past. There's no issues with scheduling or ensuring that those people will be available in the time frame that PSTA would like those resources deployed. The second question is, what is the cost per hour based on the hours proposed divided into the annual cost? And so we certainly know what it takes to do the audit. Over the last 4 years, we've invested approximately 700, 800 hours a year working on your audit and other items that you've asked us to do, such as the NTD report. And that's come out to approximately $105 per hour. And so again, our fee is a fixed fee, not to exceed amount. And certainly, we foresee no problem ensuring that we are, coming in within budget for the fee that we have proposed. We do have various rates listed in the proposal. Those are for either other special projects or other items. Ultimately, we understand what the marketplace commands and also what it takes to do your audit. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew Laughlin for question 3.
Thanks, Lance. So to address question 3, I think it really gets back to how CLA's philosophy on how we view an audit, stemming back to echo some of what Lance's comments were in his introduction. And that is, we really don't just view an audit as a compliance effort, but really more of an annual partnership between us and our client. And the essence of that partnership really is to help each other get better. So that means that your management team and staff can call us, email us at any time to air their concerns, whatever they may be, about their finances, operations, and so on. Likewise, we can also have open dialogue, communications, debrief meetings, etc., about how we can be better in our audit procedures and make next year more efficient and serve you in a better capacity than we did the year before. and we've had those types of debrief meetings and communications in the past. And so just to touch on, addressing some of management's concerns, we've done that historically in our audit through what we've called our element of unpredictability. Debbie Leas loves that term. So what that means is management, finance, or even governance, you all can come to us, talk about certain issues, concerns you might have, and then we can tailor specific audit procedures, whether it be analytical procedures, test of details, to address those specific concerns or risks. An example of that was maybe in the FY18 audit when we went through the DART program and looked at some specific analytics and trends, and we reported to you all on that. And since that happened, and there's been several projects that emanated from that, a full-on ADA paratransit assessment and an efficiency analysis on and reworking of your eligibility process. So again, it gets back to us trying to help you. And so if you feel like when you call us or email us that we're going to nickel and dime you for the time that we spend and extra bill you, then we're not living up to that partnership. So speaks to maybe the next slide, Lance, if you want to move to 4. So like I said, we have not billed separately for those consultations. That element of unpredictability has been included in our audit fee. Likewise, there's issues that come up with new complex GASB implementations, and we try to provide information that's as helpful to you as possible to make life easier for you. So, for example, I've had Julie Lupus contacting me about asset impairment issues under GASB 42 when you've had a bus accident and the bus is not in service. So we have access to research materials and can perform that research on behalf of management and provide our conclusion on that, so we can make sure we together get to the right answer. Haven't charged anything additional in fees for that, for those efforts in the past, nor will we in the future. In addition, we like to provide templates or other information that can be as helpful to you as possible. For example, this is an FRS template that you see here in this depiction. We've provided this template to management to be able to go in, click on their entity, and then in subsequent tabs, there's all kinds of disclosure information that's provided that's automatically calculated. So we provided this to them that's helped them draft that horrifically long section of their CAFR, if you've seen it, that contains multiple disclosures, and having tools like this has helped make that process go a lot easier, and we're happy to help through that without the fear of us nickel and diming for extra billings for that help. Lance, that's all I got. I'm going to move to Andy for number 5.
Good morning. As Lance and Andrew mentioned, we are committed to providing highest quality service to PSTA. One of the ways we do that is through our interim procedures. Some of the interim procedures that we would perform are the risk assessments, the internal control walkthroughs, some preliminary analytics, and some meetings with clients to prepare for the upcoming year end. These procedures take approximately 150 hours. These hours are included in the total number of hours as estimated in the proposal. It's also important to note that the timing of the interim procedures are flexible. We can perform these procedures kind of to accommodate the preferred schedule of PSTA. So definitely flexible on that. So, that's kind of a little snapshot into our interim plan. I'll turn it over to Lance and Andrew to see if there's any other additional questions.
Thank you, Andy. Certainly appreciate that. And again, it was a pleasure to present to the selection committee this morning. I certainly know that you may have some questions. We hope we've maybe addressed some of the preliminary items that you had, but would love to entertain any other questions you may have at this moment.
Thanks, Lance, and the whole CLA team. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Lance and the whole CLA team. Very, very good job. With that, I'd like to ask the committee members if they have any specific questions. And I'll start with you, Commissioner Bennett. Do you have any questions, sir?
Yes, can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir, we can hear you fine.
Yes, I have a question, I think, for Lance. During the audit process, what is your frequency or what is your plan to communicate your findings with our management?
Yes, a very good question. So we take, anytime we have a finding, we take that seriously. We actually called out the F word on the audit because we know it's such a sensitive topic. And so our approach to communicating findings is such that, first of all, we work very closely with maybe whoever the subject matter expert is within PSD to make sure we have all the information. Secondly, nothing is final until it's gone, all the way to your CEO and your CFO for kind of final approval and agreement. And so what we do is we'll present our questions that we have as a result of our testing, give management all the way up to the highest ranks the opportunity to respond and address those. And it's not until everyone is in agreement that we, actually have a finding. And so we want to communicate that often and frequently. If we have those questions and concerns, I believe we've done that in the past. But certainly want to make sure that PSD has every opportunity to address or clear that before we make a final assessment on that.
So I guess if I understand it correctly, you have different levels of findings. And if you do find something minor, we have the capability of correcting that immediately. And that would be a finding maybe of a minor level.
That is correct. Yeah, there's certainly different levels of findings. Certainly we have a lot of best practices and recommendations that we'll provide that may not end up in a formal letter, just things that we've seen with other clients that may benefit PSDA. And then certainly on out from there, final or formal recommendations, significant deficiencies and material weaknesses, and want to ensure that we never want to take the approach that we're just issuing a finding without fully making sure management understands the real issue at hand.
Okay, great. Thank you, Al. That's all I have.
Commissioner Cox, do you have a question, sir?
I do. Vince Cox, and welcome, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you.
Since you're auditing our financials, how much comfort does that give going into the NTD audit? How do you handle areas that aren't completed yet while moving the FS audit and the NTD audit forward, since they will overlap a month or so?
That is an excellent question. And certainly there is a lot of time and effort that goes into the NTD portion of the audit. The answer to that question is that you have both myself as the main lead on the financial statement audit, and then I work closely with Andrew Laughlin, who's the other principal, who actually oversees the ensuring that the details of the NTD audit are performed timely. So you've actually got two principals working at the same time. Andrew, anything else that you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, sure. It's really an issue of timing. So there's an the deadline for NTD for report issuance, and so we essentially have a cutoff date that your finance team to say, okay, provide us this information as of the X date, and that's what we're going to subject to our agreed upon procedures. And so depending on what that date is, there could be still some moving numbers in terms of financial information. And if that's the case, we work with the best information we have, knowing that it perhaps isn't final, and we notate in the report. So just depending on the timing of when we're receiving the NTD information, knowing there could be, if the audit is still going on and there could be some final adjustments, we're taking that into account as we're performing our NTD procedures, specifically the step, I think it's step U, that discusses the comparison to financial state information. And we experienced this in the FY19 NTD. The FY19 NTD is already issued. The agreed upon procedure report is already issued, but the audit is. So we dealt with that issue.
Oh.
And I think we dealt with it very proactively.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Thank you, Andrew.
I would respectfully ask if somebody's typing, and if whoever that is, if they could put their phone on mute or their microphone on mute, that way we can make sure that the board members or the committee members hear them. I'd really appreciate that. With that said, Commissioner Saraki, do you have any questions, sir?
Yes, Mr. Burns, I have one question. What tools do you have available for the pension entry?
That's a very good question. Andrew, you were the mastermind behind the tool that we use. You want to maybe elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure, I spoke to that in I think it was question 4, but we have a template that we provide to our clients, PSTA certainly being one of them, and it contains a drop-down list whereby you select your entity, and then there's calculations and buried and hidden tabs within the worksheet. There's multiple tabs, and from that creates a wealth of information. So we have tabs on disclosures. So it shows what the disclosures you need to input into your CAFR. It also has a tab for journal entries. So it provides the journal entries based on the entity. Thank you. That's the drop down. So based on the entity you select, there's a tab for recommended journal entries for management to perform. Clients love this. Some of them rely on it fully to prepare their journal entries. Some might try it on with their own calculations and then use our tool as kind of a double check. And I know PSTA has used this extensively in the past. And I know there's also, for future standards that are coming out, like the lease implementation standard and GASB 87, our firm is already in development of providing similar information that can be very advantageous for our clients to be able to utilize. To make, again, the purpose behind this is we want to make your life as easy as possible as you go through these implementations, because we know you have day jobs and have other things that other pressing matters, and to the extent that we can help as much as we can to make sure we get the information right in the CAFR and make that process go as smoothly as possible. That's what we're here for.
Andrew, that was perfect. Thank you very much. That's all I have, Al.
Thank you, sir. Vice Chair Shulman, do you have any questions, sir?
Yes, although I think Andrew just kind of touched on it. It was regarding GASB 87. So you said that you're working on and finalizing some procedures there. Can you share a little bit of your the timetable and some of the guidance that you're working on?
Sure. So different firms are kind of doing different things. What a lot of firms are doing is they're developing maybe their own software to assist so that clients can essentially purchase. And there's a large upfront cost to that, 10,000, maybe more. And this might work for those governmental entities, large counties, municipalities, or airport authorities that have potentially hundreds of leases. For an entity that has less, and I think PSTA is a perfect example of this. On the lessor side, I don't know if PSTA has any leases where they're the lessor receiving revenue. Don't quote me on that, but certainly might have a few leases, whether it's vehicle parts or office equipment, copiers, etc. But I don't think the inventory there is going to be that high. And so the model that we have is more of an outsourced model. Instead of providing you software, expensive software, we have an outsourced solution where our clients can provide us the information, the agreements, a template of information that provide the basics, and then we have our own lease calculations that we do through our internal software that we have, and we provide you the output. And so for clients that want to go that route instead of purchasing their own software, I think that's perfect for those client sizes that are anywhere from 1 to 5 to maybe 50 or 60 leases. It's more cost effective, and quite frankly, it's easier because you don't have to manage. You can just send us the information, and then we provide you with all the journal entries, the no disclosures, etc. Again, making it as easy as possible for you. And so that right now is currently in the works, and we're working on finalizing that solution.
And then Andrew, I'll just add on to that, just to add a little more context to what Andrew had mentioned. That is going to be a kind of a cost per lease approach, which is why it's going to be so much cheaper as opposed to having all the upfront cost. And the other thing that's maybe a little bit different about CLA than our competitors as well is that we have developed an Excel tool. However, we know that Excel is not the most stable, especially as you get more and more leases. So we've actually got a proprietary software that we're going to be using to deliver on that model that we believe is very scalable. That if you get into the future where you have that, it's going to work very similar to the FRS Excel file we have, to where it can be built out over time and expanded as PSTA's leasing activities may grow in the future.
Thank you. That was my question.
Chair Barkley, do you have any questions, sir?
Well, I think all the questions technically have already been answered, but I just wanted to verify that your firm would continue its practice of coming to discuss reports as they become completed and letting us know that we are not only up to speed, but also risk-free in terms of how we present our accounting and other reports. We'd like to continue to get CAFRA and other awards, and we want to make sure that would continue.
Yeah, certainly. Communication is obviously critical with what we do to ensure that you have all the best information as a finance committee to be able to move forward as an organization. And so we're definitely committed to not only just doing year-end presentations, but also proactively communicating throughout the year, and also ensuring that your finance staff are also fully aware of any either new developments, regulation changes, et cetera, that may be out there.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. Thank you, Andrew. Great job. At this time, I'd ask you to leave the meeting. Immediately following the last presentation, which is getting ready to happen, we will have our evaluation or the discussions part in accordance with the sunshine, and you are provided that information if you'd wish. So I want to thank you and good luck and great job.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Mr. Chair, at this time, I'm just waiting for a few members from Clifton, Larson, Allen to leave. And it appears they all have left. And with that, Edith, could you admit Plant Moran to the meeting, please?
Hi, Debbie. I didn't see you before. Good to see you.
You on? Someone please unmute Pamela Hill.
Yes, Ashley Fraze is on from Plant Moran. The others are joining.
Al, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Good morning, Pam.
Okay, great. Good morning.
Is your team's all there, I'm assuming? Okay, great. Good. Go.
Transport. Okay, Ashley, if you want to go ahead. Okay, can everyone see that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. Although we'd love to be there in person today, we are very excited to join you virtually. So this whole experience has actually been pretty for us. We hope you enjoyed it. It was our team's proposal video debut. So surprisingly, we haven't been asked for any autographs yet, but I'm sure that'll be coming soon. We prepared this presentation based on the information that Al supplied last week. So we weren't going to spend a whole bunch of time kind of going through all the stuff that was in the proposal and what was in our video. We were just going to go right to the questions and then open it up for any other questions that we may not have addressed through our slide presentation. So with that, just going to do a quick introduction again of our handpicked transit experts and then get started. My name is Pam Hill, and I will be the engagement partner for the PSTA audit.
Good morning. I am Joe Kowalski, and I will be your colleague partner.
Hi, I'm Keith Schmiesky, and I'll be your technical advisor.
Hi, this is Ashley Fraze, and I'll be your engagement manager.
All right, so that is our team. With that, we are going to move to the next slide, and we are going to address a couple of your first questions, which related to pricing, cost, and hours. So I believe your first question about price was, will we commit to our price in the first year? And I think the short answer to that is yes. So let me tell you why. As you can imagine, we do incur startup time with any new clients, but we really view this time as an investment in our client. We do not bill extra for that startup time. So basically what that means is that we absorb that time on our end and we do not pass it along to you, the client. But I do want to assure you, we have worked really hard as a team to really get this transition process down so that the time is very minimal on your team. I know Debbie and her team and your whole finance team are very busy and they have a lot of other things to do other than just preparing for the audit. So we do not ask your team to recreate the wheel, to create all new audit work papers or anything like that. What we typically do in a new client situation is we will first take a look at what you have done in the past, and then we'll review all that information, see if there's anything you've provided in the past that maybe you don't need to provide anymore, just to save a little bit of time on your end. And then we may have a few things that we'd need to add to the list. But typically the time is minimal on your end in terms of transition time. So hopefully that answers your question about our fixed fee and our first year time. I know your second question, I was able to get a little bit of clarification from Al in terms of what you were really looking for here. And I think what it boils down to is, how do we determine how much time it would take us to do the audit? So we estimated an hours number in our proposal. I believe that number was 490 hours, so approximately 500 hours. So first and foremost, just to let you know, if our estimate is wrong, that is on us. We don't think our estimate's wrong, but if it is, any additional time is on us. Our fee is a fixed fee. So just to give you a little perspective on how we come up with those hours. So those hours are first estimated based off of our experience with our other transit clients that are similar in scope and size. So we would be looking at other bus systems that are similar to PSTA. We do not just compare you to any other governmental audit, as we know that obviously transit clients are very unique. So once we get to our total base hour amount, we do adjust it for various items. So such as specific state of Florida requirements, like your report on investment compliance and other items. And then lastly, we also look specifically at your financial statements and identify various areas of risk or items that we may spend more or less time on than other transit clients. So for example, in looking at PSTA's financial statements, a larger portion of your funding is related to property tax dollars than some of our other transit clients. So we would have adjusted our timing in that section, as it would have been a little bit of a riskier area just due to the large dollar amounts. So basically, in a nutshell, that's kind of how we came up with our hours and how we typically approach pricing a new client. So with that, I will toss it over to Joe, and he is going to talk about your third question.
Thanks, Pam. Your third question was really about things that occur during the year and how we handle that. And there's a related topic here in that we don't bill you, but this is really more about customer service. As you probably recall from the video, you heard from Anita Elridge, our Sarasota Airport client, that we're in regular communication with her throughout the year. We're in communication with all of our clients. They often call us with routine questions. We never bill them, and we won't bill you. Not only do we expect you to call us with your questions, you can expect that we'll be calling you. We'll keep in touch throughout the year about things that are happening at the industry level, whether it's new legislation or government standards, or to simply just check in to make sure that we're all on the same page getting ready for the audit. Let me give you an example. Just last week, I sent an update to a client regarding the applicability of the CARES Act FICA deferral for governmental entities. The client posed a follow-up question that neither their healthcare consultants nor their labor attorneys were able to answer. Within half an hour, I was able to provide a definitive answer to that client by consulting with our CARES Act specialist. No charge, happy to do it, love to be in contact with our clients throughout the year for the things that are important to them. Bottom line, we're easily accessible. You can always rely on us to provide timely and accurate advice. We'll either jump on the phone for a quick call or jump on the airplane to meet with you on site. Either way, we'll be there when you need us. Now, Keith is going to spend a couple of minutes talking about how we approach the new standards on a related topic.
Thanks, Joe. Before I dive into discussing exactly how we do proceed with implementing new standards, I want to tell you that I appreciate the chance to answer this question. It might sound very nerdy, but this is something that actually excites me and the rest of the team. Implementing new standards gives us the chance to anticipate our clients' needs and provide them the tools to make the process as painless as possible. As your technical advisor, I can assure you that with Plant Moran, you'll have all the tools and training that your team needs to implement new standards. In fact, I'm the person responsible for leading our GASB 87, the new lease standard implementation team. The process for any new standard begins before the GASB even releases the final standard. Once they've published an exposure draft, we put together a team, begin analyzing the standard, and determining how it's going to impact our clients. We start publishing articles, and we provide webinars for anyone who is interested. On the slide, there's a link to our website that includes a lot of the content we've published related to new standards, COVID-19, and other topics relevant to the governmental industry. I know you can't look at that right now, but we'd be happy to share that link with Al, and we hope that you'd take a look at our content. Those articles and the webinars really are a great starting point, but the true value that we're able to provide with new standards comes from the toolkits that we offer only to our clients. These include a summary of the rules within the standard, as well as an Excel tool that takes your raw data and converts it into journal entries. I still think back to one new client in particular. It was just a few years ago where they hired us as their auditor, so the pension standard had already been in place for a couple of years. The CFO was very smart. She had everything under control and probably, it seemed, didn't need much help from us. But I shared our toolkit with her. I told her that even though you've had a process in place that's worked for you for the last couple of years, just take a look at this. And if you like it, feel free to use it. Well, she ended up falling in love with everything about it. She liked the appearance and the way it looked. She liked how easy it was to use. She liked the fact that it kicked out a journal entry as well as some footnote disclosures that easily converted into the financial statement. I thought this was a major stamp of approval that what Plant Moran is doing for new standards is working for our clients. I was also excited to talk to you about this topic because I think my combination of experience auditing other transit agencies, as well as being the technical specialist for Plant Moran's entire governmental practice, would make me a great fit to help Debbie and the rest of her team implement these new standards that are coming down the line. So I hope what you take away from all this is that no matter what the GASB throws at you, we'll be here to help, and we've got you covered. Ashley?
Thank you, Keith. This is Ashley Fraze, your engagement manager, and I'm going to spend a few minutes today talking about our plans for interim. So we expect to spend approximately 130 hours on interim work, which is included in the 490-hour total that PM discussed previously. This is an estimate of our interim time, but it should be noted that this isn't a one-size-fits-all. So our timing as well as the scope of our interim work can be flexible to meet the needs of PSTA and the timeline. So we're able to do this because we have a large team of governmental audit staff, so we can adjust to the needs and timeline. We'll work with your team to create a plan, whether it looks like what you've traditionally seen for interim in the past, or increasing or decreasing the amount of time or scope of that interim testing. We have various clients that prefer no interim. And on the other hand, we do have many clients that prefer to push as much work in an interim to reduce the final field work time. So again, we're flexible to the needs of PSTA. That being said, our understanding and testing of the accounting system and related internal control structure is typically a priority for us at interim time. By doing so, this allows us to understand which key controls and any compensated controls that are in place in order to focus our detailed testing and perform our risk assessment procedures.
Joe, I believe you're on mute.
Okay.
Thanks, Al.
That's you.
Oh, wrong Joe. Wrong Joe. Okay.
The bottom line is we care about our clients, and it shows. 99% of our clients would recommend us to others in an independent survey. And in that same independent survey of customer satisfaction, we rank above companies that are known for customer service like Apple, Amazon, and Costco.
Thank you, Joe. That is something that we are very proud of as a firm. And what it means for our clients is that we're always there to provide the best client service that we possibly can. So with that, I think we've covered your initial questions, but I'm happy to expand on any of those further or answer anything else that you may have for us.
Thank you, Pam. At this time, I'd like to ask the committee members if they have any questions. And I'll start with you, Commissioner Bidditt. Do you have a question?
It's my turn now?
Yes, sir. Do you have any questions, sir?
Okay, I just have a couple of short questions. You talked about communications with new criteria, but I'm more interested in what your communication process is, maybe on a daily basis as we process through the audit.
Sure. So I'll take that one. So typically what we do once we are hired, one of the first things that we would do is to meet with PSTA, your team, and discuss communication preferences and cadences. We know that every client is very different and has different preferences. I think one of the things that makes Platt Moran unique is that we have a very high level of partner and manager involvement in the audit process. Some firms may have the partner come out, maybe once during the audit. If that, you will see the partner in the field many times throughout the audit and the manager even more often. And why that's important is that really ensures that as a team, we've vetted anything that we have found through our entire team before bringing it to your finance team and maybe wasting their time on something that we didn't need to bother them with. So we're getting more senior input and senior involvement in all of the decisions. During the audit process, we would definitely be communicating while we're in the field with your team based on their preferences. Some clients like to have us, go in as soon as we have questions. Others like us to save them for, a couple times throughout the day so that their team's able to get other work done too, other than just the audit. So again, we kind of direct that to your department's preferences, and we're able to work efficiently around those communication preferences. And as Keith noted too, and Joe also touched on, we would be in communication with your teams throughout the year. Why we think that's very important is then we're up to date on everything that's happening at PSTA, any unusual auditing or transactions that may have occurred during the year. We've already talked through all those items before the audit even starts. And that really helps the audit to run more smoothly. And really our goal is to make sure that at the end of the day, there are no findings. We want to work with your team throughout the year to make sure that we're all on the same page with anything unusual or anything that may have come up. One more thing in relation to communication. As required by the auditing standards, we are required to communicate with the board and or finance committee. So of course, that would be one of those items that we would talk to management about in terms of what their preference is or what the finance committee's preference is in terms of communication. We typically like to have our initial meeting with the finance committee or board chair in person, but again, we're open to any preferences that you may have there. We have some clients where they want us at, their quarterly audit committee meetings every quarter. And then we have some that say, once a year when the audit's over would be best. So again, we're really open to your preferences and what works the best for your organization. I'm not sure if that answers your question. I know it was a long answer.
That's great. Just a little follow-up on that. You made the comment that at the end of the day, you would like to see no findings. We agree with that. And does that mean that if you find little small things as we go along, that we're able to take immediate corrective action and to eliminate written findings?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So again, typically we'd like to work through any kind of odd things throughout the year so that we don't have any findings. And we know that that's definitely a goal of yours as it is ours. Typically what we find is that throughout the audit, we'll come up with kind of best practice items, recommendations. Those items don't always rise to the level of something that needs to get communicated to the board. Oftentimes, the best practice things, we will discuss those first with the finance team, one, to make sure we didn't miss something, that there's not maybe an additional consideration we hadn't thought about. As your team obviously knows your organization better than anybody. So we would first work with your team on anything that we see, and then we would discuss any of those items in a draft meeting setting again, and kind of vet with your team if they need to rise to the level of something that we would need to communicate with either the finance committee or the board on.
Okay, great, Pamela. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Commissioner Cox, do you have any questions, sir?
Yes, I have a question. Vince Cox, since you are auditing our financials, how much comfort does that give going into the NTD audit? How do you handle areas that aren't completed yet while moving the FS audit and the NTD audit forward, since they will overlap a month or so?
So that's a great question, Vince. I will turn that one over to Ashley, as she is really probably heading up the NTD. Obviously I have involvement in that, and Joe has significant experience in that as well. But let me turn that one over to Ashley.
Yeah, that's a good question. So understanding the processes and controls as it relates specifically to the passenger and fare data will obviously overlap between the financial statement and the NTD audit, as a lot of those procedures and controls would be cover both of those engagements. There's also a specific NTD procedure that requires agreeing the F40 operating expenditures reported on the NTD to the audited financial statement. So again, us having the groupings available to us and auditing those groupings as part of the financial statement audit would allow us to easier compare those totals and walk through any differences with your team having the account numbers and all the groupings together by way of the financial statement capper audit. We have a lot of transit clients where we do perform the NTD procedures concurrently with the financial statement procedures. Given that our team is, transit focused, deeply engaged in the transit industry, it would be the same team performing the NTD procedures as well as the financial statement procedures. So, the same team would be out there. So when we do have these clients that run the NTD and the financial statement audit concurrently, that team can handle both of those same tasks with a little bit of overlap there related to processes over the operations and the passenger data, as well as comparing, the operating expenditure comparison between the financial statements and the F40.
And Vince, we're very familiar with, as this is a similar process that most of our transit clients have as well, where we're needing to get the NTD work done during or earlier than the final issuance of the financial statement. So we have experience with that, and we are able to work with that situation.
Okay, thank you, Ashley and Pam and Al. I have no more questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Saraki, do you have a question, sir?
Yes, Al, I have two questions. Pamela, I hope you can help me with this. I might have missed this question.
Sure.
What is your hourly cost? You said your estimated time would be 490 to 500 hours. What is the estimate hourly wage?
So in terms of our total cost divided by the number of hours then?
Yeah, like is it a 120 an hour? Is it 150 an hour?
So I'd have to go back and get you the exact, I think it comes out to be, a weighted average hourly rate of 140 or 150 some dollars. I'd have to go back and physically calculate that out. Oh, I see Debbie waving her hand up there.
Yes, I took a look.
Something to add?
Yeah, if you take a look at your price proposal, which it appears the first year is around $231,819, you divide that by your 490, your average price is in the $400 an hour range.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for getting answering that. I have one other question. What tools do you have available for the pension entry?
Pam, before you answer that, you can go ahead and take control of the screen again.
Yeah, because I think the 200 and some, I think that calculation is actually maybe not be right. That 400
Specific items, if you need to allocate it across departments, that would be factored into the toolkit as well. And then it spits out a journal entry. Here's how you need to adjust your balance sheet accounts and your pension, the changes in the statement. So I'm really—
Keith, thank you.
Do you have a question, sir?
Yes, thank you. And I think actually Keith he touched on this in pretty good detail during the presentation. The question was regarding the guidance on GASB 87, but you mentioned that you had you have a—
So up until now, we are operating under the assumption this was going to be our, which I'm sure is close. I think we've got a toolkit for client, no kinks in the guidance, of emphasis.
So if I could just comment on that too. So that tool that Keith's referring to, that his labor of love is Excel, or at least is, or a situation toolkit. I checked for agreements if you haven't started to.
Other questions?
Okay. Commissioner Barkley, do you have any questions?
Well, that's
So the members know how we would talk a little bit, please. So
if you could simply share that screen with the slide that's easier for us to present. So if somebody could please return that central slide to the screen. Thank you so much.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
So this is Joe Kowalski, and I appreciate that question very much, Commissioner. The important thing to understand is, for me personally, I was a finance director at a mental health agency at a county prior to being a professional auditor. And there's nothing more important to us in the transit practice of Plant Moran than the mission that PSTA has, which is safely connecting people to places. And that mission is important no matter where you're located. And our customer service model is designed to be able to serve transit clients around the country. Ashley talked about it in the video a little bit. Our firm is organized by industry specifically so that we're bringing the experts in your industry to you when you need them, as opposed to someone who just happens to be in the local office. So we're very proud of that, and you know, it's really based on a customer service model.
Okay, then the second part of my question is, when you're actually physically doing the audit, when you're physically looking at the data, when you're physically touching the document, that's all going to have to be done by electronic means as opposed to personal interaction with their Debbie and her staff. Correct?
No, so actually, when we do field work, we will physically be at the authorities' offices. All of our time and those hours that we have put in the proposal will be spent at the authorities' offices. So, you know, oftentimes the way it works when, you know, when we don't have an office right next door, obviously we have a lot of phone calls, video conferences, things like that. But just for an example, one of my other transit clients that is out of state, I go out there to have the, you know, preliminary meeting with the finance committee. So we're more than happy to do that, to be there in person. We'd love to come out to meet you, to get to know you guys. We are definitely there in the field for our interim work. So that time that Ashley talked about, that's, you know, either in July or whatever time frame works best for your team, we will be in the field doing our testing. That is the most efficient way for us to do it, and also likely for your team, so that they're not having to spend countless hours uploading things and on a million phone calls with us. We also will be there during our field work time as well. So our field work time will all be in the field at your offices, just like any other firm would be. You know, we're very used to flying in and out for meetings, flying in and out for board presentations, things like that. That's just what we do with our national practice. So we definitely will be there in person.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Al, go ahead.
I do have a question, if that's okay, if I ask one. You mentioned coming in and flying to the various meetings and stuff. And the pricing that you have in your proposal, does that include all the travel costs?
So we do not charge for travel costs. Since we have a national practice, we do not charge extra for travel costs. So you will not see a bill for travel costs. And there will be nothing billed over and above what that fee is in the proposal. That's a great question, Al. Thank you.
I just wanted to make sure. Debbie, Brad, do you have any additional questions, sir, ma'am?
No, I think we've got them all answered now. And I did go back and take a look at your total cost. I was able to pull that up, divide it by 3 for a 3-year base, I believe. And it came out to $157.70.
Yep. Yeah. Our apologies. We tried to clarify that with the data, if that was what the question was. So yes, that division and that math, it comes out to $157.70 an hour for those 3 years.
Yeah, but thank you very much for this presentation too.
And Debbie, I'll take ownership on that. Pam, Ms. Hill did reach out to me, and I tried to clarify the answer as best I could. So if there was any additional clarification, I think I may have asked the question or given her wrong information. I apologize about that, Pam.
Oh, that's okay, Al. Thank you.
So with that, I would say great presentation. I want to thank you for your time. I would also like to let you know, like I let the other 2 firms know, we're immediately going to transition from presentation to discussion. And I would ask, if you wish, not encouraging or disencouraging you can call back in. So we're in accordance with the sunshine, as this next meeting is going to be held in the sunshine. Thank you, and thank you for your time. Great job.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'd like to take a small pause while Plant and Moran exit the meeting.
Dan, you have a question? You're just waving.
Okay,
No.
Ashley, if you could exit the meeting, I appreciate it.
No, I'm just happy, Joe, that's over. That was long. Wow.
I believe Plant Moran has exited the meeting. And Julie, I'd like to take over the screen.
Okay, ready?
So, Mr. Chair, before you, just as a friendly reminder, that's where the firm ranking was when we left the last committee meeting. I'd ask you, Mr. Chair, I'd ask, does any committee member have any comments, or does any committee member want to recommend a ranking?
Al, if I can just make a comment, I'd like to. Richard Bennett.
Yes, Commissioner Bennett, please.
I'm just would like to ask you that if CLA has done a good job over the past year and they're very competitive with where we are right now, give me reasons why we might want to change.
As the procurement director, I'm not prepared to answer that. I'll leave that to my boss, Ms. Debbie Leas.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Oftentimes, you get comfortable with auditors, and it's good to change. Matter of fact, there are rules out there for all the audit firms that you have to switch out partners. I believe it's after either 4 or 5 years, you need to switch out partners, which is why in the past we've had Andrew Laughlin, and now we have Lance Schmidt. So sometimes it's good just to change, just to get a different perspective.
So how long have we had the CLA?
This is their last year. I believe we've had them 5 years.
5 years in a row?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. McCullough, do you have any comments, or would you like to make a recommend a ranking?
Put my mic back on. Turn my mic back on.
Yeah.
I guess I would recommend that they be ranked just like we presented a few minutes ago.
Yes, sir.
Okay, do I have a second?
Mr. Chair, can we go through some more comments before
Yes, absolutely.
we work on a motion or, yeah.
I thought everyone was open to, Al asked questions for everyone. So if everyone has a question or a comment, please proceed. So, okay, Commissioner Schulman, go ahead.
Thank you. I didn't know, with this new setup, what order we were going in. So a couple of things that I noted in the presentation, both Cherry Becker and Plant Moran talked specifically about the CARES Act, and whether that whether that's applicable to some of the stuff that PSTA is doing or it's not. To me, it spoke to a proactive view of things that might be coming down the pike and saying we are already addressing these. CLA didn't mention that, and I also thought it was interesting on the question that I asked about the GASB 87 leases. CLA said, "Give us your data, we'll do it for you," which kind of, in a way, does make us a little beholden, right? We're not developing our own tools and having our own processes. We're reliant on them to do it. Whereas the other two firms were providing software and guidance on doing it ourselves without an additional upfront cost. So although I will say CLA did say that theirs was a separate cost per lease. So give us your data and we will charge you to figure it out, versus the other two firms were, here's a tool that you can. So that, so one, I'm inclined to change up the auditors after a 5-year stint. Two, CLA didn't mention anything about stuff that's going on currently with new stimulus, new grants, new things that might be available, being proactive on that. And then they want to on my specific question, they were going to charge per lease to have them provide the output to us versus just giving us the tools and showing us how to do it ourselves. So for me, that moved them down the ranking. Otherwise, I'm kind of split between Cherry Beckert and Plant Moran.
Commissioner Shulman, is there a order 1, 2, 3 that you would like, sir?
Yeah, so that's where I'm not sure. You know, for me, 1 and 2 is Plant Moran, Cherry Beckert, but it could be 1, 2, 2, 1 either way. My biggest question with Cherry Beckert was dealing more with the outside partner that's going to be doing the NTD testing, and I really just don't know. I don't have the experience to know whether that is meaningful, that it's an outside person, it's an outside partner or versus internal. But that was one outlier in their conversations that seemed to work. I will tell you, I think I'm talking myself into a ranking. So I think looking at my other notes, Plant Moran is also the only member of APTA from all the audit firms. So it shows that they're involved in the transit area more so than just auditing, but involved in keeping pace with the news of transit. So I would be my ranking would be Plant Moran, Cherry Beckert, and then CLA.
Thank you. Commissioner Cox, do you have any comment or recommended ranking, sir?
Get turned on here. Thank you so much, Commissioner Joshua. That was very great information there, indeed. I was inclined, though, to go with Cherry Beckert as number 1, then CLA, then Plant Moran. I'll give you some of the reasons why. One reason is that for a change, after we've had CLA for 5 years, I believe that the Cherry Beckert, they're also local. That kind of, the Plant Moran being, really out of the area kind of turned me off a little bit. And but I'm going to keep it simple and just say Cherry Beckert 1, CLA 2, and Plant Moran 3. That's mine.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Saraki, do you have any comments and a recommended ranking, sir?
Al, thank you very much. Yes. First of all, I think all 3 presentations were really well done. I'm just kind of really impressed with all 3 firms. All the questions that I had were answered by all 3 firms, but I want to just go through my ranking. Number 1, I want to rank Cherry. Cherry Bennett, LLP, and then number 2, Plant, and then number 3, Clifton Larson Allen. That's going to be my ranking, Al.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Barkley, do you have any comments on the recommended ranking?
Yes. I concur with some of the issues that were raised. Plant Moran is a member of APTA, and I noticed that right away also, and someone else mentioned that, and that's important. The problem is with them, they're very national, and frankly, I think we would be small potatoes to them compared to some of the other organizations that they handle, and I think we would have a little bit more onus placed on Debbie and her team because of the fact that they're national, out of town all the time, and most everything would be done electronically, either by phone or fax or email or transmission of documents in some other way. That was a little bit of a turnoff to me, even though they frankly had outstanding quality people, and they have a lot of good entities that they represent right now. So, I will go along. Frankly, your scoring, Al, was very detailed and quantitative, and I hate to go outside the 9 dots, but I would concur that Cherry Becker would probably be number one. And Plant Moran would, even though they're a member of APTA, and that was really important. The fact that they're sort of distant and remote, I think, would be difficult for Debbie and her people. And so I would still keep them number 3.
Okay. And excuse me, and I'm not trying to belabor, but I would like to make sure that I would like to confirm what I have recorded before I present that to the chair. Commissioner, and if you can acknowledge by yes or no. Commissioner Bennett, you're recommending your order is Clifton Larson Allen, number 1, Cherry Becker, number 2, Plant and Moran, number 3. Is that correct?
Turn your mic on, Richard.
Yes, Al, that's correct.
Commissioner Cox, just to confirm, Cherry Becker, number 1, Clifton Larson Allen, number 2, Plant Moran, number 3. Is that correct?
That's correct. Excuse me, Vince Cox, that is correct.
Commissioner Saraki, Cherry Becker, number 1, Plant and Moran, number 2, Clifton Larson Allen, number 3. Is that correct?
Al, Dan Saraki, that is correct.
Commissioner Schulman, Plant Moran, number 1, Cherry Becker, number 2, Clifton Larson Allen, number 3.
That's correct.
Commissioner Barkley, Cherry Becker, number 1, Clifton Larson Allen, number 2, Plant and Moran, number 3.
Correct. Go Barkley.
Mr. Chair, Cherry Becker has ranked number 1 out of 3 out of the 5. Plant Moran ranked number 1 out of 5. And Clifton Larson Allen ranked number 1. Is my recommendation to you as the procurement director that you go with the firm that had the most, scored the highest and had the general consensus, which is Cherry Becker, which had 3 out of 5 votes for number 1.
Okay. Thank you, Al. Are we looking for a motion now at this point? Should I call for a motion?
Yes, sir. Let me just go to today's action item that I'm looking for from the Finance Committee is bring forward the top three firms in ranked order to the April 22nd Board of Directors meeting.
Okay. All right, and with your revised calculation based on the way all 5 of us voted, how does that stack up?
3 out of 5 members. There are 5 voting members. 3 of the 5 voted for Cherry Becker as number 1.
Okay.
One member voted for Plant Moran as number 1. Cherry Becker as number 2. One member voted for Clifton Larson Allen, number 1. Cherry Becker, number 2. If I could be so bold, I think at this time, a recommendation needs to be made or a motion needs to be made to the ranking.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Chair and Al, can I, this is Brad, can I make a suggestion?
Of course, sir.
Perhaps, Chair Barkley, you should just ask for a motion to go ahead and ratify that our number 1 ranked firm is Cherry Becker, and then we'll take number 2 and 3 separately.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I had a question from Vince Cox, and if anybody else has a question.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Give me 1 second. Let me talk to Vince first. And then
Yeah, but that was what I was going to address, what Mr. Miller just said. So, and I concur with Mr. Miller on that. Go for the number 1 first and then settle the dust later.
Okay. All right. Josh, what were you going to say?
My preference would have been just to take the rankings as we gave them, assign points. So first place gets 1 point, second place gets 2, third, add them all together and we'll get a ranking, the lowest score is number one, the second lowest score is number two, and the third lowest score is number three. We already have a ranking. She's able to quickly go through and figure what that total is.
Okay, so Brad's recommendation is just to discuss number one ranking and leave the other two for later. Josh's is to try to do a recalculation with all three commission with our 5 votes. Is that a hard calculation to make, Al?
No, sir. I have staff. There's 3 of us, so we'll be able to figure it out. I'll be able to figure it out, sir.
All right. So at this point, I guess what we're looking for is a motion to recommend Cherry Beckert as our number one selection. Is that correct? Does everybody agree to that?
Mr. Chair, this is Dan Saraki. I make a motion to approve the number one ranking of Cherry Beckert LLP as our number one choice.
Okay. Thank you.
Richard Bennett here. I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Richard. All right, so let's go through the vote on this. Okay, I'm going to go backwards, and I vote yes to that motion. Commissioner Schulman?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Schulman votes yes. Okay, Commissioner Saraki?
Dan Saraki votes yes.
Okay, Saraki votes yes. Okay, Commissioner Cox? Vince, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Can
Okay.
you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, Vince Cox, yes.
Okay, and Commissioner Bennett?
Richard Bennett, yes.
Okay, so we have a unanimous vote to rank Cherry Beckert number one, and Al and his team will determine the ranking for the number 2 and 3 slots between now and our meeting next Wednesday.
Mr. Chair, this is Brad.
Yes.
So I do believe that the committee does need to recommend number 2 and number 3. From my little tabulation here on my napkin, I believe that Plant Moran had more points to come in second and Clifton Larson Allen to come in third. But Al, you're the mathematician. You can correct me.
This is Debbie. Not that I'm a good mathematician either, but taking Schulman's request to take a look at it, you know, Cherry Beckert had the most number ones. Lowest score wins. They came up with 7.
Okay.
CLA came up with 11, and Plant Moran came up with 12.
Oh,
So
okay.
the ranking would be Cherry Beckert number 1, CLA number 2, and Plant Moran number 3.
Okay. Thank you, Debbie. All right.
And this is Josh Schulman. I would make a motion to approve that second and third ranking as stated by Debbie.
Okay, great. All right.
I'll second that. I'll second that motion.
All right, thank you, Vince. All right, so we have a ranking now, first, second, and third. Cherry Beckert first, Clifton Larson second, and Plant Moore's third.
Can you do the roll call vote for that last one?
Yes, we are going to do that right now. Thank you. Okay, so Commissioner Bennett.
I vote yes.
Okay, Commissioner Cox.
Vince Cox, yes.
Okay, Commissioner Saraki.
Dan Saraki.
You vote yes? Oh, I didn't hear your vote.
Yep. Dan Saraki votes yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Schulman?
Josh Schulman, yes.
Okay, and Joseph Barkley, yes. So we have a unanimous decision. Thank you very much for an extremely long process on this. Everybody did very well. I appreciate everybody's input, and everybody did a lot of research before taking that vote. So I'm glad to hear that. All right, so we're going to move on now to reports, and in the interest
Can I just ask one question, Joe?
Yes, go ahead, Richard.
The process now is we bring those numbers before the full board?
Yes, next Wednesday.
And is that some kind of state, federal law requirement that the full board votes?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
So the full board, after we did all this work and all this discussion, and we picked out a number one choice, the full board could change that decision?
Yes, they could. Not typical. They're going to rely on our doing the heavy lifting on that, but yes, that's possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Brad, do you have any comments you want to add to that?
Only that it's part of the state law that if the board does not go along with the finance committee's number one recommendation, they have to they have to have a reason. They have to have a written reason why they didn't go with your decision. So I think they're going to rely on your heavy lifting, as the chair said.
Okay, thank you. Al, do you have any comments on that also?
No, sir. I just want, only thing I would like to do in conclusion, this has been a very long process. This is unorthodox with getting videos and the teleconference and everything. And I just want to thank all the committee members for your time and your attentiveness.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank your team too for all the work that they've done. Appreciate it very much. Thank Debbie also. Okay. In the interest of time, this has been one of the longest meetings I think the Finance Committee has ever had. And the fact that some of our devices may be running out of battery life, we're going to suggest that the reports are included in the packet for you to review. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to CEO Brad Miller or CFO Debbie Leas, and I'm sure they can get you an answer. Does any committee member have any other business that they wish to bring before the committee at this time? Raise your hand and I'll recognize you. Mr. Schulman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Barkley. I just wanted to make sure, just operationally, and I'm sorry I didn't think of it sooner, but we took a vote. Was there any public comment on that vote that was in the wings? I presume not.
Well, I'd like to answer that.
Yeah, sure.
The second half of the meeting, when we had this discussion, is considered to be like an evaluation committee meeting, which is held in the sunshine, and there is no opportunity for public comment during an evaluation committee meeting.
Fair enough. Thank you for that clarification. I just wanted to make sure we were dotting I's and crossing T's. So thank you for that.
Good. That's a good question, Josh, and I appreciate it. If you recall back at the very beginning, we had a public comment period. There was no public comment at that time, and we said that that would be the only spot in this particular meeting where we would have public comment. So I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, is there any other business that we need to bring before the committee? If you do so, if you have anything, let me know. Raise your hand and I'll call it. Okay.
Great job, everybody.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your hard work, everyone. And this is our first venture into the electronic methodology, but it seemed to work very, very well. So I'd also like to thank Julie and her team for the great job at getting us through all the new ways of handling our meetings until this situation is over with the virus. Thank you very much, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh,